How's it going, everyone? My name is DrapPep. Welcome back to another installment of this series. I've been thinking lately about when was the earliest memory that I have of when I felt that characters can be relatable, that I can relate to a certain character or feel like they're human. Which up until then, I was watching cartoons like Popeye the Sailor Man, who would eat a can of spinach and have super strength, or I would be watching something like, Freakazoid, for example. A lot of times I was also watching shows like Blue's Clues. I was also watching a lot of PBS, to be honest. A lot of PBS. Like, what was out during that time? There was Arnold. I had to think about that one. Barney. Which, by the way, I only watched Barney because I was terrified of Barney. For some reason, as a child, I thought Barney knew when I wasn't watching their show and was going to hunt me down for not watching. So every day, I would tell my mom, we need to check to see if Barney's on. And she thought I really liked Barney. No, I was scared. I was scared Barney was not going to, find out that I wasn't watching. And so I would just be like, we got to turn it on now. The safety of the family's at risk here. But I didn't really relate to these characters. These characters didn't feel like something I can connect with. They were just entertaining characters, except for Barney. Barney was not entertaining. That was terrifying for me. But they were just entertaining characters for me to enjoy. So, what was the first for me then? I really had to think about this. At first, I thought Batman. Because, Batman lost his parents, but then Batman goes on to being like a vigilante with gadgets and a car. I can't relate to that. How am I supposed to relate to a guy who can literally bench press like 4 times his weight? All right, I can't do that. Then I thought about, oh, maybe Star Wars. But, Luke Skywalker has the Force, and sure, he deals with some crisis, but it's nothing that I can relate with. But then I remember The Land Before Time, and including The Lion King. Because this was like the first time I had seen a character experience loss, death. And to a child, that's kind of hard to grasp, kind of hard to wrap your mind around. And I remember in The Land Before Time when Littlefoot loses his parents, I remember being confused. I was like, why is he crying? They're just sleeping. I was a dumb child. But I asked, I said, why is this happening? What's going on? And it didn't take me long to fully grasp the concept of death. Like I picked up pretty quickly. And I felt that watching a character mourn was pretty relatable because that's pretty much how we would all react, honestly. But throughout the story, you see them have personal growth. You see them strive, especially Lion King. Even though Simba learns the beauty of Hakuna Matata, he still he still has to face his thing. He has to go back and reclaim his throne. He can't run from his past forever. Now, this wasn't like something that everyone, oh, well, then death is what binds us all. No, I'm saying that it was the first time I got to see a character experience some kind of loss. Same thing with like Bambi and I believe the Neverending Story. Like these are all stories, concepts of characters experiencing loss that we all go, oh, well, that's just what makes us all cry. But we cry because we feel connected. We cry because we feel that loss with them. It's those aren't pity tears. We're crying because we experience that pain. And I think that it's because we relate to the character. I feel like later on in life when I discovered Spider-Man, I felt the strongest connection to Peter Parker. Because Peter Parker, even though he was a superhero, fought crime, has the ability to climb up walls, spider sense, has web shooters. He was just some guy. He was just a teenager. He had to go to school. He had to worry about bullies. And when he put on the suit, he was Spider-Man, but then when he went back to being Peter Parker, he had life to struggle with. Paying bills, going to work. By the way, going to work to a job he didn't really like at first. Going to the what was it? The Daily Bugle? Was that what it was? Sometimes I mix up Daily Bugle and Daily Planet a lot. That happens a lot. And I have to think about that for a minute of which one was it? I know one of them, Superman. I feel like Superman is also pretty relatable, even though his powers make him unrelatable of just as, oh, he's practically a god in flesh. But he has a lot of human traits to him that you can't overlook. That desire and need to see the best in humanity, the constant hope that he produces. Unlike Batman, who sees the worst in everyone, who feels like justice needs to be served, Superman feels like justice needs to be upheld. And they both have the same outlook, but the different take at it, which makes Superman interesting. But the thing is about Superman, though, is that he's way too powerful. Whenever there's a threat, it's just like, oh, that's okay, we have Superman. Just like the Avengers. Oh, that's okay, we have the Hulk. It's all right. We're just gonna drop that little character right in the middle of the plot and see what happens. But Spider-Man, even though he does have the strength to do remarkable things, he constantly is holding himself back. There's one issue where Dr. Octavius takes over Spider-Man's body and he realizes how strong Spider-Man really is. And it was kind of like a uh-oh moment of just I did not know you can do this. I didn't realize how strong you were. I knew you had a level of strength to you, just didn't realize it was to this extent. Yeah. If he wanted to, he could easily have ended all of you. Easily. But he didn't. So be grateful. Be grateful he doesn't. But I feel like even with all that power, all that might, the option to be a crime lord and just live off of his powers, even just to be a celebrity if he wanted to, he always had wrestling to fall back on. But it was the fact that he chooses every day to be Spider-Man. He chooses every day to try to be a symbol of hope. But his life is a shamble. And that is an interesting take on Vigilante. Because, yeah, unlike Batman, who is rich, right? He has all these gadgets. He suffers a lot. But he could always put down the cape and cowl and go back to being, a billionaire. Superman could easily just go back to being Superman. He doesn't have to be Clark Kent. He could just go to his Fortress of Solitude and just live out the rest of his days as Superman. Peter Parker doesn't have that option. There is no better life for him. He stops being Spider-Man. He has to be Peter Parker. But the interesting thing about that, though, is he can choose to either be Peter Parker and his life does get better as Peter Parker, or he could choose to be Spider-Man, but Peter Parker has to now suffer. He has to choose to be the hero so that his life can be a shamble. And that's been shown in a lot of issues where Spider-Man stops being Spider-Man and Peter Parker's life kind of gets back to being good, but everyone else around him suffers because of that. So he chooses to be Spider-Man for the sake of others. Such a wild concept. And to think that even though my realization that a character from a show or movie can be much more than just what I'm seeing, that they can have layers and layers of just concepts and complicated lives to them to make them more relatable, was something that I've learned since I was a kid. Something that I try to add into even my D&D campaigns as a DM. Whenever I write a villain for my D&D campaigns, I don't just make them, oh yeah, that guy is being evil because, well, he's evil. No, I write the villain with a goal in mind. Why is he doing this? Well, because in his mind, he sees that he's the hero, that he wants to be the good guy. And so when my players meet this villain, a lot of times they side with him. A lot of times they're like, ah, damn, that's actually a good cause. You're not being evil because you're sick and twisted. You are actually forcing the world to be better, which to the world is evil. Whenever a person forces their ideals, no matter if it's good or bad, it's seen as evil. But when the players discover what their goal really was, and they see, oh, wait, you're actually trying to stop the mass genocide of a particular race, and that, oh, you're trying to save the kobolds, and you're doing so by forcing the kingdoms from entering the forest to keep the kobolds safe. But the kingdoms see that as evil because they see that as, oh, well, he's not letting us through. He's attacking caravans. He hasn't really killed anyone, is what they finally realize. Sure, there was some deaths, but that was accidental. So those were not intentional deaths. And a lot of times the players end up helping the villain. They're like, yeah, you know what? Actually, the kobolds do deserve to live. We're going to keep them safe. And the villain becomes relatable. They have a cause and backstory that makes them not just some evil doer. They have a soul. They have a reason to exist. And I think a lot of the media I've consumed has helped me see that there's a way of writing a character to make them relatable thanks to that. Well, that's going to be it for this episode. I want to thank everyone for tuning in.